All right, we are live. And give me 1 second to get my friends on Amazon to join us. There we go. So starting a little later today, but I had the guy dropping off the dishwasher. So that was what delayed things a little bit here. But we're going to get cooking in a few minutes here once people come in to the stream. So this will be a fun one. This is like a once in every 5-year kind of deal for me because I don't buy MacBooks all the time. But this is the MacBook Pro 14, and I will put in the comments here in the stream what the specs are on this. So let me look this up real quick. And go through my order here that I did. Yeah, so this one is the M1 Max, and it has the, basically I got the top end processor on this one, primarily because I only buy these every 5 years. So I thought, and I've gone through this calculation in the past with all my other ones. So these are like trucks for me, you know, like they're doing my daily driving for a lot of what I do on the channel. And so this one, I will put it out in the thing here. So this has got the 10-core, 32-core GPU. So I'm going to put a chat here. M1, 10-core CPU, and this is the M1 Max. So we're going to put that in the chat here, specs. M1 Max, 10-core CPU, 32-core GPU, and this has 32 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD. What else does it have? I'm just going through my list of stuff here. Yes, and then these, okay, so it's got the 16-core neural engine, but I think they all have that. So I will put this in the chat. MacBook 14. And so that way, when everyone asks, I will have that answered. So that is the scoop. So this is the box. It is still in its plastic. It's ready to be pulled. And as you all know, what I like to do in these live streams is record. I often record and shoot a video while I do this stuff. So I'm going to do that right now. So let me get my recording set up here. And this is going to be MacBook Pro 14 unboxing. So that's the name of the video. And I'll hit OK here. All right, so got some comments here. William Wilkinson is here. Hello there. And we have Romeric is here. Nigel Roberts is here from Heathrow. All the usual suspects are here. DK Savage is here. One Bag Travel. I'll get there. Sam is here. Ayan is here. Joe Tyson is here. Adam Louse is here. Yeah, this one, not giving this one away. No, sir. Eduardo is here from Spain. Jonathan Purple is here. Did I get the 8 terabyte option? I did not. I went with the 1 terabyte. And the specs I have posted as a chat, so you can see them right here, and I've pinned it now to the stream, so when people pop in, they'll know what the specs are. And Jorge Martinez is wondering on Amazon, is this for, this is actually for me. Yeah, this is going to be my daily driver that we'll be using. John Bell is wondering, does it run Plex natively? I don't know if they've ported Plex server to M1, but it runs great on the Intel side, as we saw in a video last year. Adam Lass wants to know my thoughts on the touch bar going away. You know, I rarely use the touch bar on the 15-inch that I have, so I'm not going to miss it. And we'll see how the keyboard looks when I open it up. Martin is here. And One Bag is going through the syrup, which is great, my brother's syrup. Jassy is here. Connor Lavoie is here. Nick B is here from Connecticut. Hello there. Jonathan wants to know, do I prefer the MacBook or a Windows Toughbook? So I have not used a Toughbook in a long time, and I would love to see some of the more recent ones, because those are pretty rugged. Don Cornell is here, Hayden Nelson is here, and Eric Chug is here, got his 14-inch just today. So it looks like everybody's getting them today. Actually, I was expecting this tomorrow or early next week, and it showed up this morning. So I was like, oh, let's try to do a stream before we get too much further. All right, so I'm going to record the unboxing. So I'm just going to kind of do my thing, and then we'll come back and chat some more. I've got like about an hour or so, and then after that we will have a review later next week. So yeah, these are definitely a bit thicker than the prior ones. So I think that's by design, because people were complaining about the lack of ports, the keyboard, all that stuff. The last run of the MacBook Pros was not great. So I think this is going to improve upon a lot of that. And I think professional users are not as concerned about thickness. They want performance. So there you go. All right, so let me hit the record button here, and we'll start my unboxing video. And then we'll come back and chat. How's that sound? 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and it's time for another unboxing. I just got in my once every 5-year MacBook Pro. This is the MacBook Pro 14. I went with the M1 Max edition, which has the highest configurable CPU, 32 gigs of memory, and a 1 terabyte SSD. So I kind of went all out on this, and we are going to unbox it now. I'm actually doing a live stream while I do this, and we're going to have a look and get a kind of a first impression of the hardware, and then I'll come back and do a full review on everything that this computer is about and what I use it for, because I do a lot of video editing on Macs, and this is going to become my new daily driver, and it will accompany my M1 MacBook Air that I use for travel. Now, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that I paid for this MacBook with my own funds. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what's inside the box. All right, so let's get that clip saved, and then we'll go to the next component. And give me 1 second, because somebody was calling me, and I have to tell them I'll have to call them back. Okay. So let's get to the unboxing part. Gosh, everybody's calling me right now. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do lift the lid. 3, 2, 1. All right, so actually, let me see what I did on the last clip. All right, there we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's lift the lid on the box here. Like all Apple products, the unboxing is an experience in of itself. So here we go. We've got the MacBook, and it's definitely thicker than the prior editions. It almost reminds me of my 12-inch MacBook, the original one, or actually the old PowerBook, I should say, from way back when. So definitely a lot thicker. But look, we've got ports now. So we have an SD card reader. Looks like we got a Thunderbolt port on this side, an HDMI output over here, which is something we didn't have in the last one, which just had Thunderbolt ports. So you do have some extra ports here. We've got a MagSafe adapter. I'm assuming they're still calling it MagSafe for power. And we've got 2 more Thunderbolt ports here and a headphone jack. So they did not skimp on that. It feels super nice. This is like a really nice feeling metal. It's very smooth, as you can see. So very nice there. And let's open it up real quick and have a look at the keyboard on this one. So we'll take the thing away here, and it already boots up right when you take it out of the box. And so we'll let it boot up here. Now, one thing that we're going to have to kind of explore a bit is the notch that you're going to see at the top of the display once the operating system boots up, because now the camera, because it's 1080p, has a notch in it. And what I'm seeing online is that some of the menu bars that go too far along, right or left, end up going behind the notch. So that's something we'll have to explore when I do the full review. Let's have a look at the keyboard, though, and see what that looks like. And it feels much nicer than the last keyboard that I had on my MacBook Pro, the 15-inch one that's had now 2 keyboard replacements. So this one feels a lot nicer. The travel is pretty good on it. It doesn't feel terribly deep, but it feels like it should be a pretty good typing surface. I will explore more of that in the review. The trackpad here has got that usual Apple feel. No moving parts to it. It has that haptic feedback that makes it feel like you're clicking on something. And I'm going to turn that off because there's some audio going there. So very nice construction here, as I would expect for the price that I paid. Big rubber feet on this one too. So very nice from a hardware perspective. And again, just a little thicker than some of the other ones we've seen, but I think that's actually a good thing because you have more room for some regular ports. No more Thunderbolt dongles for video output. Let's see what else is in the box here, and then we'll come back with the full review a little later. So this is the magnetic power supply here. And what's interesting is that one end is a USB-C connector, and the other one is the magnetic connector here. Now it's not going to pass any data through, so you can power it through the Thunderbolt ports if you want, or you can power it with the magnet connector. We've got some instructions here, I'm sure. And additionally, you get your stickers too. So we've got our app. Ooh, look at this. They're black ones. Usually you get white stickers. These are black. Very nice. And your manual here. And I think that's it in here, right? Yeah, nothing else. Just a hard piece of cardboard in there. Yeah, that's it. And then we have the power adapter, which is the same size as my other MacBook power adapters, and it's your usual USB-C on the other end. So you plug in your USB-C cable, and then again, you've got that magnetic connector on the other side. Or you can plug it in with a regular USB-C power cable to one of the Thunderbolt ports, so you have the choice. One thing you don't get anymore is that extension cable. You have to buy that separately, so you can pop this off and put an extension cable in there. So that is the MacBook Pro unboxing. And we're going to come back with a full review once I've had time to set it up and test it. And I'm very excited to get my new daily driver here integrated into my workflow. And I'm really eager to see how its M1 Max processor performs. So more to see on this one. Stay tuned. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. All right, the unboxing is done. So now we can get down to business and see what this is all about. All right. So let me just log that clip, and we'll get going on here. And I'm going to have about a half an hour to 45 minutes today, but I'll be back again probably over the weekend to do more. So we'll see. Jose wants to know what I think of the notch. I'm not sure about the notch.
Use English as the main language. Press the return key.
I don't know why it's talking to me here. I'm not sure about the notch, to be honest with you. I think for me it's going to be okay because I don't have that much stuff on my menu bar. But I know a lot of people often like to have a lot of stuff running up there. And I'm seeing some folks say that this has become a problem because it will hide. So the computer doesn't think there's a notch there. So there's stuff that's going to appear behind it. So we'll have to see how that goes. All right, I'm just going to go through my Wi-Fi connection here and get it on my Wi-Fi network. And then I've got to get it connected to my other stuff. I will say the display is very nice. It looks super sharp and crisp, but it could also be because it's not dirty yet. So that's what happens to this stuff. Now, one thing you have the ability to do is migrate from another machine. I always like to start from scratch because I just like to start, every time I get a new computer, I just like to kind of start it with just the bare minimum and then add what I need as I go. So over the weekend, I'll be continually adding things to this, I think. And give me 1 second here to log into my Apple account. And I've got to do the two-factor here. And we'll get that going. And we'll get that going there. And agree to that. Okay. And we're going to create a computer account, which is weird because I thought it uses the Apple thing. So, all right, we'll just do that. Get in there, and we'll get cooking. It chose a tennis ball for my image. So almost there, then I can show you some more stuff. Boy, I'm getting a lot of questions. Fatty wants to know, does it feel as solid as the last gen? I think it feels more solid, partly because it's thicker. It's got like more girth to it, so it just has a more solid feel. The metal feels different too. It feels like, I don't know if they have a coating on it, but it feels, and it could just be because it's clean. My machines tend to go through a bit of abuse here. So we got some more folks joining us on Amazon. We have Randall Constant is here. Hello there. He likes to start from scratch on his stuff as well. Hanko wants to know, is that a fingerprint reader on the top right? Yes, it is a fingerprint reader, and it looks like the power button is integrated with that. So it's got that on there. And I think what I might do is hook up a external Ethernet. That's the one thing. They added all these ports, but they did not add Ethernet. And that's kind of something I would like to have on my MacBook. So I am going to, once this thing is done setting itself up, just plug in my Ethernet adapter here to speed things along a little bit. And I'm also going to plug it in with the new power adapter, wherever I put that. So we'll see what we've got here. Yeah, and I suspect I'm seeing some comments here like Jan is saying they want a Mac Mini with this CPU. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff with this CPU. And if you think about like the Mac Pro, like without any power constraints, like what's this thing going to be able to do? It's going to be pretty remarkable, I think. All right, we're just going through the motions here to get all set up, and then we'll get it moving. And I'm moving around a lot of stuff here. So I actually have an Intel Mac Mini that I'm going to be retiring, or at least selling, because that one's still very capable. It's a 6-core i7. So I'm going to sell that one, and then this is going to become like my new desktop / laptop. So I'm going to dock it on my desk down here, and that really snaps in pretty securely there. It's got a nice click to it. And we're going to set up the Touch ID. So let me show you how that works. Turn the brightness back up here. So no Face ID, but it has a Touch ID sensor on it. Oops. I pushed the button by accident. All right, Touch ID is ready. Okay, let me go to... But yeah, it is very thick. But you know what? They kind of yeah, we're not going to do touch. Okay, we're going to keep it on light mode for now. They were, you know, it was funny. The last batch of MacBooks, the ones that came out in 2016, were very controversial amongst professionals because I think people were frustrated with it. And this one would be perfect, honestly, if not for the notch, because when you get into an app, again, that goes all the way over. Now, I guess they have guidelines now for developers to put stuff that goes up to here and then skip over and go to the other side. But the problem is that if you've got stuff going this way, that's going to be kind of an issue. You know, so, I mean, it doesn't bug me all that much because it's up in the menu bar, but we'll see when I'm actually using it. You know, I really want to start like just doing my normal work on it and see what... see how it works, but it's hard to not see that, right? And I guess the question would be, do you make thinner bezels? Because it is a very compact design, and you've got a screen that is probably close to the size of some of the older 15-inch MacBooks because of the lack of bezel. So it's always like, you know, a trade-off, kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other sort of thing. So let me just plug in my Ethernet cable here. Yeah, you know what, I'm going to go with this one over here. Okay, so we'll plug that in. Gotta say, the ports on this really click. All right, so we are connected. Now, I want to check for updates, and then we're just going to just benchmark this sucker before we put anything else on it so that we have that ready to go. All right, so there is an update, of course. So we will, let me just make sure it's on my Ethernet here. Are we blinking? You're blinking, good. Okay, so we'll do an update. We'll get 12.01 on here, and then we'll run a few updates on this and see how it goes. But it looks nice. The display really does look nice. And it's got a nice amount of viewing angles to it also. And Alistair makes a good point. You know, the notch was controversial on the phones also, right? And then every phone manufacturer started putting notches on. Or they punch out the camera or something, so. But we'll see. I'm reserving judgment on it until I have an issue with it. So we'll see what happens here. Yeah, they do load up the taskbar here with a lot of apps, and I don't use a lot of this stuff, so I'm going to get rid of Apple TV here. We'll get rid of music. Let that update download. I don't do podcasts on my computer. Looks like they just want to steer you into all the Apple stuff. I do, of course, use all of the Apple apps here, Pages, Keynote, and so Keynote is what I use for all of my weekly wrap-up videos. And I suspect that there are a lot of updates for my apps on here too. So let me sign in. And we'll get everything updated. Because I think Keynote has been updated since this icon was created. Let's see. Huh, I guess it is up to date. I thought they changed the color of the icon. Because it says none of my apps have updates, so I'm guessing we're good. All right, so let that finish. And then we've got this update. So we have to wait for that to go through. And we'll see what happens. So Cyborg Metropolis is curious how browser tabs work with the notch. Well, I guess, though, if you're on a web browser, oh, look at that. So oh, interesting. So when I go full screen, so look what it does. When I go full screen, it puts it below here. And watch my mouse. You can see the mouse disappears behind the notch and then comes out the other side. So when you load up tabs, it basically stays below the menu bar, where the menu bar would be. So that's how they got around that. I'm wondering if it does that with other apps too. We'll have to see how it does it with Chrome or the Brave browser or something like that. So it looks like this update might take a while. It's like 25 minutes preparing the update. So this is always the anticlimactic part of these streams. So yeah, I mean, I think the notch, part of me feels like, you know, they make these design decisions. Part of me feels like they do things just so that people keep talking about it, because that's all everybody talks about. And I think for Apple, what they've discovered is that there's no such thing as bad publicity. So no matter what people say, they're talking about it. And let me just put my DND on here. All right, so we'll let this finish installing, and then we'll do some more stuff with it. And so if you go on my Twitter, I retweeted something from a little earlier, and somebody was showing what happens when, I can try to pull it up on my computer here. So what I've seen with this from this guy's post And I'll show you here. Let's click on his thing here. Give me 1 second and I will put this up on the screen for you to see. So what happens is that it will put stuff behind the camera. So there are areas where this could be a problem with older software, and I'm guessing that they've got some instructions for developers to follow on some of the newer stuff. So if we take a look here, I'll zoom this in for you so you can see what happens. Let me get it really tight on this. So what this guy posted is that you've got the notch, and then, and watch what happens here. He has like, he's explaining it, and then you'll see it in a second. So he's going to load up this Mac app that gives you some analytics there, and you can see it's putting things behind the notch. So that's the one area that it could be a problem for power users. And you know, when you think about it, the power users are the ones that buy this thing. So you know, I think you're going to hear a lot more complaints about that. But for me, I'm fine with it. Ayan wants to know, how's the brightness look? It looks fine. Looks nice and bright. Doesn't look too bright. And you know what's funny is usually my cameras get blown out by these really super bright displays, and it's not blowing out the camera. I don't have a nits meter, so I can't measure it, but it is brighter. I have my MacBook Air next to it, and I would say it's brighter than the MacBook Air. To some, yeah, it's brighter. It just has a warmer look to it. The quality of the display is better. Josiah is joining us on Amazon. Yes, I am also on YouTube. So I am simulcasting in both places right now. Chelsea wants to know, can I put there's so much interest in this notch. Yeah, so if you put the cursor behind it, it'll go behind it, and it'll still work back there. You can't move your windows up there because they stop at the menu bar, and that's been how the Mac has worked forever. William Gross says, how's the keyboard? Keyboard feels pretty good. Let me pull up text editor. It's nice. It's firmer and less squishy than the MacBook Air that I bought recently. So, you know, they got rid of those butterfly keyboards. So it doesn't feel as squishy. It's got a very firm feel, and I like the way the keys spring back at you. So that feels pretty nice. And I'll show you what it looks like from the overhead here. So the keys feel good. They're a little bigger maybe than the MacBook Air's keyboards are. Not much so. And the display on the back here is warming up a bit. So I'm feeling some heat back on the back of the display. But the system itself is a little warm on the bottom too. Definitely warmer than my MacBook Air gets, but it is installing an update to the operating system, so that's probably consuming some resources. But there's no fan running, so that's interesting. But I'll say I'm not distracted by the notch yet, because I'm usually focused below it anyhow. I'm only going up there when there's a menu item to click. I do think, though, that, and this might be just this is running Monterey. I think they made the taskbar slightly larger to accommodate the notch. So on existing Macs, you might lose a little real estate if they in fact have the same size menu bar on them. Corey wants to know the Touch ID speed. Let's try that out real quick while we're waiting for the update here. So I'll just lock screen. And, oh, used an eagle for my, there you go. Pretty quick. I'll do it again. Lock screen. Boom. Pretty quick. Jose says that it looks like a tank on Amazon. Yeah, it's definitely got a kind of a tank-like feel to it. It is, for those of you just tuning in, it's definitely thicker than the prior ones. It doesn't look as thick with the display open, but when it's closed, it really reminds me a lot of some of the late model PowerBooks before they switched over to Intel. Kind of has that design aesthetic. All right, so we're waiting for this to finish doing the update. So, hey Lon, how about moving the menu bar below the notch? I don't think you can move the menu bar. Let me see if it lets you. I don't think that's an option. So if I go to display, it's kind of a physical impediment, if you will. So this is an Apple XDR display. It says it's 1600 nits. I don't see that, unless I'm guessing it's going to be localized at that brightness. And it's got the ProMotion refresh rate also. But there does not appear to be an option for adjusting the location of the menu bar. But I can give it more space. I usually run in this configuration. So the default looks okay, like it looks nice, but I prefer to have more screen real estate. So I usually use it in that setting. That's how I have my MacBook Air also. It's getting harder with my eyes beginning to get a little up in years, but and we're just waiting for that software update to finish up. I don't know what it's doing now. I'm hoping it's doing something, because like this menu bar thing is Zam super chat. Oh, I think I answered your question, I hope. Yes, you can change the screen resolution, as you just saw. And you can also, there's an app that I have called, what is it called? Switch Res X. I have it on my MacBook Air. And you can manually dial in whatever resolution you want. And I use that occasionally when I've got my NDI stuff going on. All right, so we're going to restart here real quick. And when we come back, we will be updated, and then we can run a couple of benchmarks before my wife gets home. Josiah wants to know, do they have a 17-inch model? No, but they have a 16-inch model, which in the past was about the size of a 17. So you have that as an option. And I'm going to restart the computer. All right, so now we're going to do a restart, and we're going to update it. But it's definitely thicker. You know, it's funny, the camera makes it look a little thicker than it is. So there's my hand for context, but it's definitely a thicker design than before. But you know, when you compare the capabilities of this, you know, what I'm reading, and I haven't tested this myself, so we'll try to figure out some way to demonstrate this. But from what I'm reading, you're getting like a 3080 kind of performance out of this if you were to compare it to an NVIDIA GPU. So when you look at like what a gaming laptop configured with that chip would be size-wise, I think the size on this one is pretty slim for what it's got inside. And yeah, I think we're going to run the wildlife test, Mark. And the only challenge with wildlife is that it's an iOS app, but it runs natively on the M1. So I think we should be able to run that one. And that'll give us a good comparative to start with. So I think we'll do that one when we get going. And Zam wants to know, wants to say, I can't wait till Windows is ARM ready. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I think they've got a chicken and the egg problem on the Windows side, right? Like we've looked at a couple of ARM Windows machines. I've looked at 2 of them over the last couple of months, and they have great battery life, but the performance is not there. And I think what's really surprised people about these things is the fact that you're getting so much performance out of these. And to some degree, they've kind of tailored the performance for what people do with it. So there's going to be instances where this is not as fast as the Intel equivalent because it wasn't tuned for that, right? Like they've put things in the hardware to favor video editing, to favor, you know, graphical things like Keynote, you know, that sort of stuff. Photo editing, you know, like a lot of those things that are frequently used by Mac users, they've optimized for. But I'm sure there are applications that the ARM chip is not able to compete with Intel on, because Intel is more general purpose, right? So that's what they go with there. Tony says, homogeneous architectures unite. Get it. I don't get it. Help me out. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. But I think you're talking about the notch being on everything, right? And Jassy says you can say armed and ready. Yes, somebody else said that the other day too. And I will try, I'm not going to be able to get to it today. Some people were asking about Ubuntu. I will try to get a couple of flavors, get like maybe Ubuntu running on it. I'm actually eager to try out Windows because I haven't used Parallels in a while. So I'm kind of eager to see how Windows is doing. Because I was surprised by how well Windows ran on the M1 MacBook Air. And the M1 Air really surprised me in a bunch of different ways because this computer, my MacBook Air that I have kind of running the chat room right now, I bought this to kind of be my travel machine, and it ended up being so powerful that I was able to turn over my prior MacBook 15 to Jake even before this one came in, because it's been doing everything. Like once I got this, I stopped using my old MacBook Pro. It just wasn't fast enough compared to what this was doing. So it's been pretty good. Frank wants to know, is the keyboard backlit? Yes, it is. You won't see the backlight under my studio lights, but it does have a backlight. It better for the price. Jay says, it's like armed robbery. Oh, yeah, for that price. Now, he's correct on the pricing side because, you know, I was referring to a gaming laptop a few minutes ago. You could probably get a really decked out gaming laptop with like the latest NVIDIA GeForce chip and the MacBook, with the latest Intel chip and the latest NVIDIA chips for less money, but you don't get the battery life, the compactness, right? So it's always the same thing. If you want battery life and compact design and performance, you're going to pay for it. And Patrick was wondering, I think you can change the color of the menu bar. So we should play around with that a little bit. It does, as you saw, it does change the color when you go full screen on the web browser. And you know, ultimately, I'm going to give you my opinion of it, right? And you know, I haven't started working on it yet, so I will spend a weekend with this before I do the review, and I'll tell you if the notch distracts me. It might be distracting to some people. It may not distract me at all, because typically, and I've been thinking about this, when I'm using the computer, I am focused on the application or applications in front of me, right? So that's what I'm going to focus on, pardon the pun, when I'm looking at this. And somebody wants me to compare the size to the Air. I will do that in a second. Once it's done rebooting, I'll close it so you can see. Actually, I can probably just do it now. So let's take the Air out here. And so I'll just kind of put them side by side. So you can see the Air is much thinner. But not, you know, because the Air is tapered. So at the thicker side, it's not, and somebody could go and measure it. Or go on the Apple website and look at it. Yeah, it's actually pretty close. So on this part of the Air, it's actually pretty close to the overall thickness. And my wife upstairs has the prior edition 13-inch. So we'll take a look at that. And Tech Outlet is here. Don't worry. Welcome, Tech Outlet. An Amazon customer wants to know how you get into the neural network. I don't know. I want to get in that network myself. Just download me and get me off of this crazy existence. And Alistair talks about the notch related to their phone. Yeah, I've had the notch on my phone for a while. A lot of times, too, like you don't see it because the app's just kind of, right? And then I found, like, if you're watching a video, you know, because of the aspect ratio, you never see the video going over. Occasionally, there's something really, you know, really wide that will put the notch in the middle of it, but and we're just waiting for it to finish updating, and then we'll run some benchmarks. Oh, we got a super chat that I missed. Hang on a second. Let me make sure I didn't miss it. JC says there. Oh, yeah, let me put that up. I missed that. I'm terribly sorry, JC. Thank you for letting me know about that. You know what the problem is here? I don't always see. Let me see if I can find JC's. You know what's funny? JC's question didn't come through. So why is that? Very odd. JC wants to know, what did I do before YouTube? So before YouTube, my family had a business where we imported gloves and safety equipment. We were actually in the PPE business. So I did that, mostly doing IT work. But I was doing a lot of other things too. I did HR for a while. I did purchasing, did some sales stuff. I did everything. It was kind of, my joke was I was the management trainee. And we got acquired. And then when the company that was acquiring us came in, I just, as a joke, when they asked what my position was, I called myself the management trainee, which wasn't far from the truth. But then they put that on as my title in a meeting. J-Ho's wondering, do I notice any discoloration on the previous space gray MacBooks, maybe around the ports? I have not. I've almost primarily been a space gray customer. So this one I haven't had very long, but it's still pretty good. There's a little bit of scratching around it, like where the ports go in, but not too much. And thank you, Patrick, for reminding me about JC's question, because for some reason it didn't show up on my, it didn't show up in my vMix thing here. Okay. And Chris Allegretta is here. Thank you for the moderation. Okay, we're just waiting for it to finish rebooting, and then we'll run some benchmarks. That's the one problem when we do like a live stream unboxing and then a test, is that you can never, like, you have to wait through all this stuff until you can get to the meat and potatoes, as they say. This is a good question, because I've tested this on other Macs in the past. And the answer is, generally the answer is yes. I probably should look into this to see if that's the case here. What I have found in the past is that a couple of things may happen. One is that it doesn't charge the battery while it's under heavy load, if it's using a lower powered power supply. And that's more often what happens, because remember, the power supply is rated to run the computer at full load and charge the battery. So when you have a lower wattage power adapter, it'll cut the battery off from charging, and that usually is enough to power it. Additionally, if it can't get what it needs from the power supply, I do believe the battery supplements it. And a lot of the docking stations out there that you'll come across are, in fact, 60-watt docking stations. So those tend to deliver less power than the included power supply. Matt is asking, did I ever use the touch bar? Rarely. I forgot it was there most of the time, so I don't miss that at all. I thought I would like it because I liked the idea of having apps contextually make use of it. But I didn't see a lot of that, you know. The one thing that I found of most use on the touch bar was when I was in the Unix command prompt. And it was fun because you would type in a command and you could then get to the man page, because it would put the manual page link right on the thing there. So it's pretty neat. And Rich is wondering if I noticed any overheating, throttling. Not yet, because we just got started. Although it is doing an update right now. And typically on my other MacBooks, when you're doing an update of the OS, that's usually driving a fan, like it causes the fan to pop on. And I'm not hearing anything out of this thing. It is silent, just like my MacBook Air. So one of the things I will do is check out like some video exports, things that really eat it up. I've got the video project I did for my brother's place, that 4K 60 thing, so we'll take a look at that. Jonathan wants to know, will it handle? Yes, this will handle any Pro app easily. The equivalent, as I'm reading, again, I haven't tested this myself yet, but the equivalency here is like a high-end Intel gaming laptop with like a 3080 GPU. That's kind of the equivalent here, but it consumes a third of the power. And that's kind of the big deal. It consumes far less power. And Patrick Chang was talking about Rene Ritchie's findings with, yeah, so it's just far more efficient. And I don't use the Adobe apps. I stick to mostly the, whatchamacallits, the Apple apps. I use Final Cut. I do a little bit of Motion, but that's about it. Brandon Roberts, I have not answered why I went with the 14. You know why I went with the 14? I don't like big laptops. So when I was looking at this and deciding what size to get, I was kind of torn between the 16 and the 14 for obvious reasons. And there did not appear, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I was wrong, I'm going to be really bummed out, but there did not appear to be any performance disparities between the two, other than the fact that the 16 has a bigger display. So I was like, hey, if I can get the most power in the smallest package, that's going to be great for me. Because I like, if like when I go to CES, I'll be bringing this with me to CES. So, to have something that's not that big and bulky was kind of the decision point. I guess if I had an Apple store closer to me, I probably would have gone in and looked at it first to see, right? But that was kind of why I did that. And Bruce Johnston is here. Hello. And I know you are also the tech, what was it? Tech, I forgot. Tech. I know who you're talking about. Oh, Tech Outlet. It's right there on the thing. David watched my review of my brother's Framework laptop. Can't decide what I like more. Yeah, both are nice. You can work on one but not the other. So that's the big difference there. And Jotsky here is wondering, what programs do I need anyways? Well, I use my primary applications are either the Chrome or the Brave web browser. That's the browser I use most. I use Safari a little bit if I have to be logged into 2 different places. Final Cut Pro all the time. Keynote, Pages, Numbers, I use those a bit. Photos, the built-in Photos app. I use Pixelmator, which is a great photo editor. And what's great about Pixelmator is that, for me, it does everything Photoshop does, but it's like a one-time purchase. So those are the things that I do with that. So Mark says, I like the text size on the 16-inch. Yeah, I'm getting close to that. I have to go get glasses because I'm starting to have trouble seeing. It depends on the day. Some days I see better than other days, but I'm definitely in need of glasses, I think. Nick says the 16 might have a different cooling capability. That's probably true also. So Heyman here says that the 16-inch has a high performance mode, which this does not, but the performance advantage is minimal. Yeah, so for me, it's probably going to be fine. And Brian's, yeah, we're going to test some games out when I do the full review because you can get Steam games on this. I have access to Apple Arcade, but there's not much there. They're as far as like things that really push the hardware. But we'll try some Intel games on this and see how they do. Now, when I reviewed the MacBook Air last year, we did run a couple of Steam games that were Intel games, but they installed on the Mac because they have a Mac version. And of course, these things can emulate the Intel software. And on the MacBook Air, it ran Rocket League, as one example, better than it did on the Intel one, like night and day better, like 60 frames per second kind of better, and it wasn't even native ARM, M1 ARM stuff. So Holden, thank you for the super chat. Can it charge with MagSafe and USB-C simultaneously? Not at the same time. It's one or the other. So you can, my guess is that if you have this plugged in, this will take priority when you plug in something else that has a power supply, but it won't use both at the same time. And Bruce is wondering, where's the Pixel 6? I am so far behind right now. That's the problem. I have it on my list, and part of the problem is we've had lousy weather, so I haven't been able to get good photos out of this thing yet. So I will get to it. I've got it here. The embargo has been lifted. It is a good phone. I will say that the video capability of the phone is not as good as the iPhone. That's one observation I can make. The iPhone video is still the best. So, and actually, if you all have, by the way, on the games, if you have game requests, let me know. And Crysis Remastered is one to try. I'm going to keep a list of games to run on the M1 here, M1 Max. And I'll see what I have in my Steam library that's compatible. What's nice about Steam is that if you buy a Windows game and there's a Mac version, you get that also. So I'll see what's available for this one. Nito wants to know on the phone, how is the Google case? The Google case is terrible. It like flops around. It feels cheap. Like I would not pay for this case. It's really bad. And it's surprising because on the other phone, like the Pixel 4, yeah, the 4, the 3 or the 4? The 4 that I got in a while back, that one had a fabric case. This one is just like, it feels like the freebie case you get with some of those cheap phones from China. Like it's not good. Thomas has got a good question. If I'm going to try Windows, I'm going to research which one is working best with ARM right now. I'm guessing Windows 11 might be the one to load, right? So I will investigate that. That's a really good question. Yeah, we'll probably have another couple of live streams as we start messing around with stuff. It's still updating, by the way. And Patrick says, old school Minesweeper. I'm sure that'll work pretty well. Yeah, I would not buy the Google case. It's just not good. And it's a shame because they had really nice cases with the Pixel 4. Like those fabrics are really good, but this one is not so good. David's wondering, does the Oracle's virtual machine work via... That might be interesting. I don't know the answer to that. Brutal Doom, yes, I had that running on my other Mac, I think. That might be fun. It's actually pretty fun to play that. So we are almost there. And let me just make sure I didn't miss any more live streams, super chats. Yeah, I don't know why JC's super chat did not come through before. Let's see if I can figure out why. Oh, it did come through. I must have just missed it. Okay. We're almost there. 2 more minutes. So this is a good question because I know some people are following this closely and others are not. You can run Windows through a virtual machine, but not natively like you could before. So that's the one reason why you might want an Intel Mac still, because you can boot the Windows Mac directly into Windows, which you can't do on this one. So that could be a reason that you might want to look at that. Actually, I wonder if Fortnite is on the Mac. Let's see. Yeah, there is Fortnite for the Mac. Oh. So I didn't realize this. So I just had a question from Jatsky about Fortnite. And apparently when they lost their developer rights, this is Epic Games, when they lost their developer rights, they also cannot develop on the Mac any longer. So it's stuck on whatever version they had before it was terminated. So you can download it, but it's not up to date. And Sam wants me to try Minecraft. Yeah, we'll give that a shot when we do the full thing. I only have a few minutes left here, so we're going to do a couple of benchmarks, and then I've got to get going on dinner because the kids are home. This update took way longer than I thought. The funny thing is you got all this horsepower, but it still takes forever to do an update, right? Madi wants to know if the palm rest dimensions. I don't have a ruler in front of me. I'd have to go find one. It does look like it's about the same as the other Macs. I can compare it to my... Yeah, it's pretty much the same as the prior edition. It looks different because you have that black border around it, but it actually is about the same as the prior design. So if you liked how it was before, it's the same now, even though it doesn't look the same. All right, let me get into my computer here real quick. All right, take that out. Okay, almost there. All right, we're back. Well, that's a snazzy desktop background. The display is like really nice. This is that Pro XDR display, so it's got a nice look to it. Okay. So now, why don't we go and grab the wildlife benchmark first and just see how that, oops. Yeah, the keyboard is very different in a good way. It's got a very firm feel to it. So that is good. Let me see if I can, yeah, here we go, wildlife benchmark. So we'll install that real quick. I don't think there is a version on the Mac side. But we got a good result on this when we ran it on the M1 Air. So we'll see how it does here. Let's do it in extreme mode here, or unlimited mode. Actually, we're going to go and do it the regular wildlife one. Now it's funny, it says my device is too powerful for this test, but that's okay. We're going to try it anyhow because this is the one we usually run. And it's going to run in a window because of how this works. It's an iOS app, but what we're interested in is the number. Oh, that's right. Chris Allegretta is buying a house. Good luck to you, Chris Allegretta. That's right. Remember you mentioned that to me. Look at that. It's like, it's hauling. It's done already. So, oh my God. Okay, so so I have a, and I'll pull it up on the screen for you to see. So I have a benchmark sheet on Google Sheets. So if you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, and you're going to want to go to the wildlife benchmark test. Now, I run this exact same test on every computer that I test. And that's why it was complaining that it was too powerful, because it kind of is. So if you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks and go on the wildlife test, now I'm going to show you where this comes into play. So again, same test we've run on every device. It is going to fall right under, this is crazy. All right, so this is the MacBook Pro 14 M1 Max. All right. Oops, MacBook Pro, let's just do it this way. MacBook Pro 14 M1 Max. Score, 64,322 at 385.2 frames per second. Now, where this comes in versus my gaming PC upstairs, so look at that. This is a 2080 Ti, and this MacBook is like almost as powerful, at least on that benchmark. And the M1 is up there too. This is my MacBook Air, so it gives you a good sense as to where it all falls into line. So that is nuts. That is crazy. So that's one test. That's all you need. I'm going to run the extreme one, though, just to see what that one looks like, too. So let's go back. And again, this is running in the iOS version, so it's possible that if they ever optimized a Mac one, it might run a little better. But that's pretty crazy. So let's try Wildlife Extreme, see what we get on that one. This one will tax it a little bit more, but not much more. And I have to say, too, the aspect, or the contrast ratio is really nice on this. It's almost OLED in its contrast ratio. Those black bars do not have a lot of light behind them. It looks super nice. Yeah, this is very true. The result is just amazing and hilarious at the same time. It is kind of crazy, isn't it? Now, I haven't run this test on a gaming machine yet, so maybe we can go and find some other results. But let's go and look at how it compares to the MacBook Air, because I did run it on the Air at the same time. And what happened here? Hang on a second. Let me just get my computer back up on screen here. Give me a second to fix this. Okay. And my computer's not cooperating. In any event, the score on the MacBook Air was 4,941. And I think what's happening here, my NDI thing is like not cooperating. Let me just reset that real quick. See if that fixes it. Yeah, doesn't seem to be cooperating. I'm also on Wi-Fi. That could be contributing to it. Display one. Oh, I see what happened here. Let's see if that. There we go. Okay. All right. So I have not run the extreme test on the gaming PC, but we got a score of 18,487 versus that's the M1. And that was running at 110.7 FPS. So they've done something graphically on here that's just nuts. Now, I don't know if we can compare this to other computers or not, because that would be kind of neat to see. So maybe somebody has, this is, by the way, this is the results here. So, yeah. And I would love to see, I'll have to run this on my gaming PC a little later and see what I get for the extreme test, but that's pretty crazy. All right, so let's do Geekbench. And I thought I purchased a license to Geekbench. Let me see if I have it on the App Store here. Geekbench 5, oh yeah, I do have it, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna get Geekbench 5 and install that real quick here. And we'll do a quick run of this one. And I have a couple different results for this test as well. And I'm sure you've seen Geekbench results already from other reviewers, but let's do it ourselves here, right? So we'll run the CPU one first and see what we get here. And I think I have this in, yeah, I do, Geekbench in my thing here. And I've got Geekbench 5 results, perfect. And what I haven't done is run this on my machine upstairs, so we'll need to do that to get some more comparatives. But I do have a couple of the more recent ARM chips, so we can compare to that. Again, Lon.TV/benchmarks and look for Geekbench, and we'll see where this plugs into that. And here's some of the other scores that we've gotten or received or whatever before. So that'll give you some context. So I really need to get a couple of more like higher end machines in there. This is my Mac Mini that I have that I'm getting rid of soon. So this will give you a good context against a relatively recent i7, but I have some other more recent machines we can test that against as well. So we'll let that run out real quick and see what we get. But yeah, this is kind of crazy to see like really performance that's on par with an i9 2080 Ti gaming desktop, which consumes a ton of power. That's ridiculous. Bruce is wondering, is the notch centered? It is centered. I think it's just the optics of my camera that throws it off a little bit. Okay, so here's our results. Single core, actually that doesn't surprise me because it's the same, the CPU is the same. We just have more cores on this one. So single core, I'll give you the thing here in a second. Single core is about the same because it's the same underlying processor. But multi-core, because we have more cores, is that. So that's of interest. Now, where it's going to diverge significantly is when we do the other test, which is the compute test on the GPU. So, and we got two different ways we can run it. I don't remember which one I ran on the MacBook Air, but I could run it on the Air just to get a sense of that. So I could close out some browser windows and run it on Metal. I think I did OpenCL before, so that's what I'm going to run on this one. Let's see what we get. And this one should be significantly faster. So we'll let that run out real quick. And Rich has a good question. This is something I'm also interested in because my intention is to dock this thing on a dock and then have it run two displays. And I'm not sure if these Thunderbolt displays can do that. So we're gonna check that out in a little bit too. All right, so GPU, significantly faster, as I would expect, because I got all those GPU cores in here. 60,037 OpenCL. Now, for the heck of it, let's run it on Metal, which is the Apple thing, just to see if that gives us a different score. But I prefer to use OpenCL because that's going to give us an apples to apples versus other platforms. And I'll also I'll add a column for Open Compute. Yeah, I'll just leave it that way. GPU Open Metal. Okay. So that one came in at 69,414. So you can see how Apple's optimizations are a little better, right? But still, like, geez. Now, compare this to the Mac Mini that I'm getting rid of. That's not that old. I mean, geez, across the board. Even the single core is faster versus the Intel. Now, that's an older Intel chip, so we have to do some apples to apples here. But we can do a comparison, so let's take a look and compare it. There's no comparison. Compute comparison? Nothing. Oh, here's some comparisons. Okay, so this is the Metal performance. So these are just the individual tests that it runs. So yeah, that's pretty wild. Pretty wild. Okay, so how much time do I have? I got a few minutes. So maybe I'll put Steam on here real quick and just see if it can see what we have available, and then I got to run. So we'll try a game or two and just see what we get. It's a shame that we don't have. Even the web browser feels faster on this, to be honest with you. Just like, just there, just pops up. Let me install Steam real quick here. Now remember, this is an Intel application, and it's going to install Intel software. But we will see how this performs. So let me just get this installed real quick. I'm not sure what I just installed. What happened? Hang on a second, everybody. See, I don't have this like set up the way I usually run things just yet, so. Okay, so now it's going to do its update. And then I just have to log in, and we'll take a look at a game running on this real quick. I have not heard the fan kick on at all. Like it is, you know, it's funny, I didn't even think about it. It's not made a peep. Like the fan is completely silent. If it's on, I don't hear it. And even during the test, I didn't hear it. Like normally on a PC, you hear the thing like cranking up. Maybe if we get a game to run, that might give us some fan noise, but I have not heard the fan at all. I am intrigued, though, to see what this notch is going to look like with a game, right? All right, bear with me. I got to just type in my Steam two-factor here. Okay. So now we're logged in. And I've got my gigabit connection here, so it won't take too long to download something. Now, we only have what we can install. So let me go and pull up, let me make this a little bit larger here. Let's click on the little apple here. So these are the things that can run on this Mac. I'm just trying to see something that would be kind of demanding on it. I don't have like much in my Steam library that's AAA for the Mac, unfortunately. So we might have, I mean, Rocket League is probably kind of the de facto, right? But I don't really have much else. So we'll just download this real quick. I'm just looking to see what else I have that will run on this. That's like demanding. Most of these games are not very demanding. Yeah, I don't have anything really that involved. But I guess the Epic Game Store has a Mac version too, right? So I could probably try that out. So we'll give that a shot. This will just take about a minute to download. So once it's done, we'll take a look and see how it runs. Billy Boy wants to know, can it run Doom? I don't know if there's a Mac version of Doom, because I own both Dooms on Steam before it got on Game Pass, and it's not showing as available. So we'll have to see what that looks like. Oh, we got super chats. Did I miss another one? I did miss another one. Chris Allegretta, I missed you. I'm sorry. Enzam. So MK, let me pull these up here real quick. Sorry, everybody. I get distracted, and then look what happens. So Zam's super chat. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to search on super chat, and that'll pull these up for me. I just didn't do that. Okay, we'll just search on that. MKHB travels with an iMac Pro to edit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this will eliminate the need for him to travel with his iMac Pro. Now, he's doing like far more crazy video than I'm doing. Like, I am far from his level for quality. I did meet him once, by the way. Yeah, I think this might be a good alternative to that. And Chris Allegretta, thank you for the super chat. What are my thoughts on the Pixel 6 Pro jumping to a larger size? Yeah, I don't like phones this big. I really don't. Like that's what I was so happy about with the iPhone 13 Pro, is that there's no compromise on this. This phone is every bit as good as the big one. And every one of the Pixel phones now, including their budget phone, the 5A, are all big. So that's a bummer. And they went from having only a small phone now to only a big one. But I think I understand why. It's because they don't, I don't think they sell many of these. Like, they're good phones. But yeah, it's just, for me, I just like a smaller phone. I would have liked that option. And even the smaller one is bigger. So, yeah. All right, I don't have a controller installed. So we'll just have to wing it on the keyboard here. And Brutal Doom, yeah, I will have to try Brutal Doom and see how that works. Corey says, how about Snake? I think Snake will run just fine on here, right? That and Space War should be great. Yeah, that's the one like disappointment when you have a machine this powerful, is that you can't actually run a lot of games on it because there are not many that are compatible on the Mac side. All right, here we go. I'll tell you what, this display, like the black levels are amazing on this. The sound is pretty good on this thing too. Let me just turn I'm going to put the frame rate counter up in the left-hand corner here. And Rocket League's a good one to test, and the reason is that you can compare it to some of the prior versions of it. I got to tell you, the display looks amazing on this thing. All right, so right now it's running at some weird resolution because of, yeah, so how can we, oops, and the mouse pointer is off a bit. So I may run this windowed and see what resolutions I can get out of it. Yeah, so we're gonna have to make some adjustments to this. The problem here is that, let me go back here and just restart. So right now it is running at 1512 by 982, and it's scaling up. And I know it's doing this because of the Retina display and everything. So I think what I might try to do here, let's quit real quick and see if I can coax it to a higher resolution by adjusting the screen scaling up. Because right now we're at that lower resolution. So let's go scaled and just go to more space and see what happens when I do that. How warm is the laptop? It is not bad. It's definitely a little warmer than my Air is most of the time, but it's warm. It's not hot at all, and I'm not hearing the fan. Even like when we were running in that menu area there, not hearing the fan. And Ryan's wondering, is the M1 Pro really behind the Macs? I think it's going to be behind it graphically. I think that's probably where you'll see the difference, because the CPU core speed is the same. It's just this one has more cores. All right, so I can go up to 1800 by 1169, which is a weird. That's not let me do it here. Hang on. 1800 by 1169. Yeah, it's just all wacky. All right, I'm just going to run it high quality because it's in like super high settings now anyhow. So everything's high quality. So let's just run it at the native here and see what we get. And we'll do like a local. And part of the other problem is, yeah, let's just create a match here. I'm just curious what the frame rate's going to look like on this. And I'll try to find some Mac games that actually can push it. Yeah, so right now, at this crazy resolution it's at, highest quality, it is running at 90 frames per second, 70. So it's all over the place. It's all over the place in a good way. So it's like 110. When I've got cars nearby, it's 92. So it's in like 85 to 100 frames per second. And this is an Intel game. So this is not even, it's 122 right now. 85. Yeah, so it's running about 85 to 95 average, I would say. 107 right there. And that's in whatever standard resolution there is. And this, again, is an Intel game. So, like, no problem. Try to run that fast on an Intel Macbook Pro. No way it would run like that. So that's pretty cool. I'll have to play around a little bit more. Again, I got to find some games that we can really do an apples to apples on this. There is no Face ID on this one. And I am still not hearing the fan at all. There's just no noise. And granted, we weren't in the game all that long, but there is no noise on this thing. There's a couple of VR titles that apparently work on this, but I don't have a compatible VR headset to go with it. I'm just looking to see what else we might be able to run that's got. Yeah, I don't really have anything else that's like that strenuous on the processor. But I'll have to take some suggestions. So if you have a game that you know is like AAA on the Mac, we'll take a look. One man show, yeah, we do. We have my older one. But like benchmark-wise, this is like no comparison at all. And yeah, I didn't even notice the notch either. I think when it goes full screen, it just kind of knocks out the notch. Because I didn't even notice it before. I have to go back and play the video again. And the specs Q5 are in the video, in the pin chat, if you're curious about the specs. This is the 32 gigabyte version with the 32 core whatever. It's the top of the line one there. So Metro Exodus is on the Mac. Okay, I'll check it out. I'll go try to find some games. If you all want to email me a few, that would be great. Lon@Lon.TV, and I'll try to take a few games out for a spin on this thing. I've got a lot more to install. I got to get my editing going on here and all that stuff too. So I've got a lot to do to get this thing ready for testing. So we will definitely have some fun with this. But everybody, I have to get moving here because I have to get dinner going for the family. And tomorrow I am going to New York City because we have one of those trade shows, the PepCom events that I haven't been to in forever. And those are a lot of fun because I get to see a lot of companies all in one place. So you'll have a little dispatch video coming up from that. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with all of you. And yeah, we'll have some fun. So yeah, let me know, send me an email if there's something specific you want to look at with this. But it's got a nice feel to it. It feels real nice. And it looks a lot like the old PowerBook design too, doesn't it? But I think the pros wanted something like this, so it's bigger and heavier than before, but that's okay, because it does what I want it to do. And Rich wants to know what's for dinner. That's the problem. We don't know what's for dinner yet, so I've got to figure that out. I think we're going to do some takeout. And yeah, nice and balanced here. Yep. Absolutely. It's like buying like a Mercedes-Benz kind of thing. One Man Show wants to know, is it too heavy? I don't think so. It's certainly lighter than my gaming laptop is. I think it's like, what, in close to the 4-pound territory? Let's look that up. MacBook Pro 14 weight. Let's see what it weighs. So it weighs 3.5 pounds, which is 1.5 pounds less than my gaming laptop that this outperforms at 1/4 of the power, or 1/3 of the power. So it's good stuff. And we just did benchmarks, mobile user. Sorry you missed it, but if you go to lon.tv/benchmarks, you can check it out there. I did try typing on it earlier. I did a little bit of typing. It feels pretty good. And hasn't gotten too hot for me yet. We'll see how it works out, but so far so good. And I think what we're going to see here is that the performance gains that you're seeing with this, because we saw when we ran the Geekbench benchmark, that this on single core performed the same as the MacBook Air did with the regular M1. So I think the performance here is the multiple cores, so it has more cores, and it has more GPU cores than the M1 MacBook does. So M2 might deliver another, when you scale up across multiple cores, M2, whenever it comes, will likely deliver that. But you think about how far ahead Apple is right now, they may not be in such a rush to roll out new processors if they're so far ahead, unless they really want to go for it. So we will see. Ed Smith, thanks for stopping by. We're actually going to wrap up in a minute here. And I want to thank a few people for their Super Chat contributions. So we have Zam and Tony Andruzzi and JC and Holden. And we also had Zam again and Chris Allegretta. So thank you all for your support of the channel. Thank you all for watching, because that support is equally important. And what we're going to do with this one is do some more testing on it. I've got a bunch of stuff that I want to install and run, just kind of do my day-to-day workflow on it to give you an impression of how it performs. But so far, it's feeling pretty good. And it looks like this this background is working better because I'm not seeing the notch up there. So if we change these are all, you have to download these, I guess. So you can see how the notch becomes more apparent with different backdrops. And the menu bar is transparent. So when you've got like the one we had before, which I can't find now, here it is. So when you have this one, it's more, you see less of the notch. You have a darker background, right? I kind of like that one. That one's kind of nice too. I like them all. That one's a little too much. Yeah, maybe I'll start with that one. So, but it's pretty good. And the contrast ratio is really nice on this display too. That's the one thing I noticed. It's almost, it is almost as good as an OLED. It looks that good. So there we go. All right, everybody, I got to jump off, but thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back with more of the MacBook Pro 14. And email me what you'd like to see, or just leave a comment on the live stream on YouTube, and I'll see that also. And we'll see where it goes. But to answer this quick question before we go, I have not heard the fan at all. Not once. So we'll try to figure out a scenario in which we can get the fan to run, or at least be audible. But I have not heard the fan. One bit. So there you go. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.